Students, now we'll discuss about the Coulomb-Wedge theory. In the first analysis, Rankine's analysis, we didn't consider the wall friction. Okay, Rankine considered the back of the retaining wall as smooth, vertical, but practically no retaining wall will be smooth and it will have some wall friction. If you consider that, what is the analysis? Now, let us see what are the assumptions. As usual, soil means backfill. Okay, backfill soil is that is the backfill is dry, cohesionless. It's a homogeneous material and isotropic material. The second one is the back of the retaining wall is rough. It may be vertical or inclined. Then we have the slip surface is plane. Okay. Now, what is a slip surface? Now you have this retaining wall. Now this is the this backfill material. A part of the backfill material will act as if it is part of the retaining wall, and it slides along with the. Now this portion of the soil is going to be as if it is a part of the retaining structure, and there will be, when this moves, okay, what happens? There will be a force created. This is called the sliding wedge. This is sliding wedge, and this is the slip surface. This is the toe, this is the heel. The surface is a plane surface, it is not curved, okay, it's a plane surface, and it passes through the heel of the retaining structure, heel of the wall. This is a bond assumption. Now, since the back of the retaining wall is rough, now the active thrust on the wall is acting inclined to the horizontal at an angle delta, where delta acting at an angle delta, and the line of action is at h/3 from the base. The meaning is that if I have, let us say this, instead of an inclined back, okay, I have got this backfill is horizontal. This is the surface which is the sliding surface, and this is the back. This is the weight of the sliding wedge. Now, if I have my earth pressure, now earth pressure earlier it was horizontal, now it will be inclined to the base. Okay, this angle is delta. What is delta? Delta is equal to angle of wall friction. in friction chapter in engineering mechanics we would have studied what is friction angle. Okay, now delta is the inclination between, this is the friction between the soil and the masonry material. Masonry is on one side and soil is on one side. You have at the interface there will be some friction and the inclination of that resultant. Now the resultant thrust is acting. This is PA. This will be acting at h by 3 from the base, but this will be inclined at an angle delta to the base. Therefore, that is the assumption. These are the basic assumptions. You have got now the soil is in plastic equilibrium when you are going to find out the weight of the soil within the wedge is in equilibrium with the thrust, which is the resultant which is acting because of the thrust, and there is a resultant which is coming here because there is a resistant force, frictional force. There will be a normal reaction and there will be a resultant because of this. There is a resultant here, there is a reaction here. This is because there is a frictional force, there is a normal reaction here, and this will be inclined at an angle delta, and this is the resultant R2, this will be resultant R1, this R1, this R2 and W, all three are in equilibrium, and because of that it is in static condition, it is stable. It will be, however, at the verge of plastic failure, means plastic movement, it means it is a verge of failure. At that limiting condition, we try to find out what is the active thrust. With these assumptions, Coulomb tried to do the analysis and try to find out the earth pressure. Now, using Coulomb's theory, Coulomb-Smuts theory, Rabin's graphical method and Kalman's graphical method, which are very classical and very interesting methods, which give the earth pressure very easily by in a graphical way. Now let us try to, they use this concept, Coulomb-Smuts theory. Now let us try to find out what is the essential condition for the thrust to be maximum. What is the essential condition for the lateral thrust to be maximum? For PA to be maximum. This is an interesting derivation. Let us try to understand. Now let us say this is the retaining wall which is having a inclined back. It has got an inclined backfill. That the inclination of the back of the retaining wall this is the retaining structure. Now let us write different terms that I am defining here. This is angle beta. Beta is the surcharge angle. Theta is the batter angle, that is the inclination of the retaining back of the retaining wall. This is the back of the retaining wall. It's not vertical, it's inclined. Let us take a very general case. Then since Coulomb considered the back of the retaining wall is rough, there is a wall friction. Let us represent delta as a wall friction, angle of wall friction. Then phi is the angle of internal friction. This is the solid to solid friction. Now let us try to draw a line. Let us call this as A, top of the retaining wall, and at the yield portion, let us call it as B. Let us draw a line. Let us draw a line. At an angle. This line is inclined at an angle phi with respect to the horizontal. This line is called the phi line. This is the ground line. Now let us there will be a slip taking place. This is the slip line, and this is the failure wedge. This failure wedge will have the weight acting at its centroid. Now what's happening here, students? This wedge is in equilibrium. Now this is trying to slip. Okay, this is the backfill. Okay. Now there will be a sliding force because the retaining wall is moving. Now there will be a thrust on the retaining wall. This will be a frictional force F1. There will be a normal reaction. N1. Now this angle, let us represent this angle as lambda. Lambda is the it is called the angle of it is called the critical angle or inclination of the critical slip angle. Now we need to also analyze this. Okay, now you got a normal reaction here. This is N2. There will be a friction force here. This is F2. Now if I try to drop a vertical here, this angle is theta. Now the resultant, now we'll have a resultant of these two forces. There will be a resultant force because of the two forces. There is a resultant R1. This inclination will be, because you have got here soil, here also you have got soil. Therefore soil to soil friction, the angle will be phi. Now at this position you will have a resultant of the normal reaction and the frictional force. This is R2, but this will be inclined. This inclination will be delta. This is the angle of wall friction. Now this complete angle is 90 degrees. Out of that you have got theta, and this the remaining angle, I will call this angle as psi. Now psi is equal to 90 degrees minus theta minus delta. So this is 90 degrees. Therefore I am subtracting theta, which is the batter angle. minus delta. Therefore, the remaining angle with respect to the vertical will be psi. Okay, now we'll make use of that in the later analysis. Now we need to find an equilibrium. Now let us call this as D. Now we need to make some construction. Let us call this as C. From A, let us draw a perpendicular to line AE, BG. Let us draw. This is 90 degrees. Let us call this distance as M. From here also, let us try to draw a vertical. Let us call this as X. Let me call this as F, CF. Then let us draw a line G, CG, such that this angle equal to psi, where psi is equal to 90 degrees minus theta minus delta. Now we have formed one triangle. Now we have to show that these two areas are same. Then only we will have the thrust. What is the thrust here? The thrust is, this will be the thrust acting here. This will be PA. PA is the total thrust, and which will be opposite to the reaction from the retaining wall. Now let us try to. Now we have got this force W. What are the forces? W is one force. The second one is the force PA, and third one is PA or R2, and we have the reaction R1. These are the three forces which are in equilibrium. Students, now these three forces are in equilibrium. Now we can form a force triangle. The weight W, this is weight W. Now let me form the force triangle. W is, okay, this is W. Now the reaction, now this R1, R2. R2 is in equilibrium with W and R1. Okay, this is R2 and this is R1. Let me use another color. So this is R1. I'll use the same color here so that you can get an understanding what I'm trying to do. R2 is okay. This is now what are the angles? Now this angle between W, which is a vertical. Now look here, this is the vertical, and R2, the angle is psi. Therefore, this angle is psi. Now, what is the next remaining angle? This is. Now, what is this angle here? Now, this is lambda. Now, look here, this is in normal to the surface, and if I draw a vertical here, okay, this vertical line, sorry, this angle will be, if I draw a vertical here, this angle will be lambda, because lambda is the angle between the horizontal and the inclined surface, that is the slip plane. Now if I draw two perpendicular to these lines, this line, okay, I got a normal which is the perpendicular to this line, and if I draw a vertical, this is perpendicular to the horizontal line. Therefore, the angle between the two lines, that is equal to lambda, must be also equal to the two perpendiculars drawn to those two lines. Therefore, this is lambda. Now, this is phi. Therefore, the remaining angle, that is the angle between the reaction R1 and vertical, this should be, what is this angle? This is lambda minus phi. Therefore, I am going to write this angle as lambda minus phi. Now, let us try to understand this. The way definitely, quite obviously, it will act vertically downward. This is the resultant, which is inclined at an angle phi with respect to the normal between the slip plane and the backfill surface. Therefore, this angle is phi, and if I drop a vertical at the point of interaction of the friction force and normal N1, okay, there where the reaction R1 is acting, that angle between the vertical and the reaction R1 will be, this angle is lambda minus phi. Therefore, the total angle will be, that is vertical and the normal direction is lambda. The remaining angle should be, since this is phi, therefore the remaining angle should be lambda minus phi. Now, once we have that, okay, now the reaction is parallel to the reaction, R1 are drawn here, and R2 is parallel to this reaction, and W is parallel to W. Therefore, this is a forced triangle. Using this forced triangle, I can, now how we got this angle source is very clear. Now I can form PA by W. I can take the ratio. This is from the arrow. This is always from on cycle. Okay, head to, this is head to toe. Okay, head to tail, and again tail to head. Okay, this is the direction. Now R2 is nothing but PA. Therefore, PA by W must be equal to. Now let us try to take this diagram. Let us try to draw. Now CG. Now here, look at this is angle psi, and what will be this angle? This angle is lambda, this is phi, therefore this angle is lambda minus phi. Is it clear? Now this angle is psi, this angle is lambda minus phi, therefore these two are the angles, therefore this is 90 degrees, this also has to be 90 degrees. Therefore, these two triangles, the forced triangle and the triangle BCG, BGC or BCG are similar. From these similar triangles, what I can do is, I can take the ratio of PA by W. Now PA, which is the equivalent surface here, equivalent side, PA is equivalent to CG, that is between the psi and the 90 degrees. Okay, this is CG, and this is W is represented by the side BG. Now this expression is the basic expression. Now I need to find out what is where W, what is CG, what is BG in terms of certain things. Okay, you got these angles, psi and other things. Now let us try to understand some more details in the figure. Now this is the horizontal. Now what is this angle? This angle is beta. What will be this angle? This angle is phi, because this is, sorry, not this one. This total angle is phi. This is horizontal and this is the inclined line, which is the psi line. So phi line. This is the phi line. Therefore, the angle between the horizontal and the inclined line, which is the phi line, is phi. Therefore, the angle between the horizontal and this same inclined purple line is phi. Therefore, what will be the remaining angle? This is phi minus of beta. Okay, now we need to find out expressions for the quantity Cg. Now I need to find out what is this value. What is this value? Now let us do that. Let me erase this portion because I need some space. Let us I'll write this expression to the side here. Pa by W is equal to Cg by Bg. I call this expression A. Now let us go to the triangle. Let us consider triangle CGF. CGF. Okay, I will consider this angle triangle. Okay, now I'll take sine of this angle. So this is 90 degrees. Now when I take is sine of this angle, okay, now sine is opposite by the hypotenuse. Okay, therefore you have x is the opposite, then this is CG is the hypotenuse. Therefore CG is equal to x divided by sine phi, sine psi, which is equal to x cosecant psi. Now let us represent this as A1x, CG as A1x. Now I found out what is CG in terms of the known quantity x. X can be measured here in the diagram. Next, let us consider BG. This BG is equal to the total length BD. Now I have taken, let us take A, let me call this as E. AE is equal to x, that is the perpendicular. CF is equal to, sorry, this is N, this is x, and BG is equal to, BD is equal to, BD is equal to M. These are the notations which I am using so that it becomes easy for me to do the simplification. Therefore, BG is equal to BD minus of DG. Right? Now what is DG? I'll express BD is nothing but, I taken this as M, therefore let me write it as M, minus DG. What I'll do is I'll write it as DF minus FG. Let me call this as 2. Now let us find out what is this value, what is this value. Now let us consider this triangle to find out DF. Consider triangle DFC. When I consider triangle DFC, I'll take the tan of phi minus of beta. Take phi minus beta. This is 90 degrees. This is the triangle. Therefore, opposite by adjacent side, that is x divided by FD or FD or BF. In terms of BF only, so that it becomes, what is DF then? DF is equal to x divided by tan phi minus of beta, which becomes x cot phi minus of beta. So this is done. Now I have to find out FG. Now let us consider the right angle triangle. Now let us consider the right angle triangle. I need FG. Therefore, let me consider this triangle CFG. In this triangle, Let me take tan of psi. When I take tan of psi, what happens? I get x divided by fg, or fg is equal to x cot psi. This comes to denominator. I can directly write it as x cot psi. So now let us substitute in this expression 2. Therefore, what happens to Bg? Now look here, x is a common factor in both things. Therefore, I'll write Bg is equal to m into m minus x into cos phi minus of beta minus of cot psi. Let me write a to x. Bg is equal to m minus of a to x, where a2 is equal to this quantity cot phi minus of beta minus cot psi as a2. Now we have simplified all these things. Now let us go to the next step. Therefore, what happens to Bg? Let us substitute here. We have already done, no? Bt, okay. A to x. Bg as a to x. Okay. Now let us consider the triangle. Now let us consider this triangle ABC. Area of triangle ABC is equal to, this area is equal to the total area of this triangle ABD area of triangle ABD minus area of triangle, this triangle if I subtract ABCD. Now what is the area of triangle ABD? Now if you take this as the base, BD as the base, and this is the perpendicular distance, okay, this is the perpendicular drawn to the base. Therefore, half into base is BD into height is AE minus half into this triangle. This triangle, this is the perpendicular, the base is BD into CF. Now what is AE and what is CF? Let us substitute that. What is BD? BD is nothing but, already we have taken BD as M, half into M into AE is N, BD is M minus half into BD is again M into X. Therefore, let us take the common term, half into M is the common, therefore it becomes N minus of X. This is the area of the triangle ABC. This is the area of the wedge. This is the area of the wedge. Area of wedge ABC. Okay, I got the area of the wedge. Now I want, see in this expression, I have found out CG, I have found out BG. Now I need to find out what is W. To find out the weight W, because that's the weight W, which is another force in equilibrium. Therefore, weight of wedge ABC is equal to W equal to that area into 1 gives the volume. I am taking 1 meter perpendicular to the board into the unit weight of the backfill material. Now what is the area? Half into M into n minus of x is the area, sorry, into this is the, therefore it becomes m gamma by 2 into n minus of x. Now I can substitute in this expression. Let me substitute all the values in this expression. I will erase this portion. I got simplified versions for that. Therefore, what happens? Substituting in equation A, we get PA by, for W it is m into gamma by 2 into n minus of x must be equal to, now CG is nothing but A1 into x by m minus of A2x is BG. Now this is the expression for the simplified version for expression A. Now I can try to develop an expression for PA, or PA is equal to m gamma into n minus of x into A1 into x by 2 into m minus A2 x. Now x can be multiplied here, it becomes m gamma into keep this also outside, x I can multiply n x minus of x square divided by 2 into A2x. Now this is the expression for PA. Now I want to find out a condition when this is going to be maximum. PA is equal to maximum. Now mathematically the pressure can be maximum when the derivative, the first derivative with respect to the variable x, if it is going to be 0, then it is going to be maximum. Let us try to do the derivative. For PA to be maximum, dPA by dx is equal to 0. Let us find out that. Now what is dPA by dx? Now I need to write the expression. Let me PA is equal to half into m into gamma into A1 into n x minus x square divided by m minus A2x. So in this quantity, half is a constant, this is a constant, plus this is the length which is constant, gamma is a constant for the packable material, A1 is also constant. The only variables are here and the variables are here. Therefore, I will keep all these terms into u by v, okay. M into m minus A2x into, I will differentiate the first term n minus of 2x minus n into x minus x square into, it becomes minus A2 must be equal to 0. Now I can simplify this, divided by the denominator m minus of A2 x whole square. Now when I cross multiply, these two terms will become 0, or what happens? m minus A2x into n minus of 2x minus n into x minus x square into minus A2 is equal to 0. Let me expand this. What happens when I expand this? M into n, mn minus A2 x into n minus 2mx minus and minus plus becomes A2, 2A2 square minus and minus becomes plus. This is for the first term, and for the next one it becomes minus and minus becomes plus. Okay, therefore it becomes a2 into nx minus a2 x square equal to 0. Now this is 2 a2 x square, this is 1 a2 x square, 1 gets cancelled, and this is a2 nx, this gets cancelled. Therefore I am left with m into n minus 2 mx plus a2 x square is equal to 0. Now I got 2 mx. Now let us write as m into n minus mx plus a2 x square equal to 0. Now what I will do is I will try to take common term here, m as a common term, n minus of x. Let me take this to the right hand side, these two terms let us take to the right hand side. This becomes m x minus a2 x square. Now this term has got x as a common factor, therefore x minus of m minus a2x. Now students, if you recollect m minus a2x, what is this? Bg. Therefore what I will do, let me divide for both the terms on the left hand side and the right hand side by half by 2. Therefore this becomes Bg. Okay. Now what is this? Half into base into height. Therefore this is the area of triangle must be equal to area of BCG. This is the condition. That means this area, the area of the failure wedge, must be equal to the area of this BCG. When these two areas are same, then this thrust is going to be maximum. That is the condition. Therefore, this expression is to be derived whenever they ask in the examination. Derive an expression or the condition for the lateral thrust to be maximum considering the Coulomb's wedge theory. Okay, then this is to be done elaborately. Then ask you for 12 marks. You must be prepared for this. Now we will try to go to the next aspect. Using this concept, let us try to use graphical methods of constructing the diagrams and try to make some constructions and determine the active thrust and also what is the intensity of active thrust for a retaining wall. We have got Rabin's graphical method and Kalman's graphical method. In Rabin's graphical method, you have got three cases when alpha and beta, beta, which is the surcharge angle, and phi such that they meet at a point. And in the other two cases, special cases where beta and phi are almost same, and in the third case when both are same. Okay, therefore we will try to take up those cases. They are very interesting numerical examples. Those cases we will also try to work out some numerical examples and try to understand how beautifully graphically you can find out the thrust. Students, we have seen analytical methods, namely the Rankine's theory and Coulomb's wedge theory. Let us try to see how we can find out the pressure using graphical solutions. We got two classical graphical solutions. One is Rabin's graphical solution. It is based on Poncelet's theory, Rabin's graphical method. And the second one is Kalman's Now for a syllabus only we are considering only the active case. Okay, let us do for the active case. Now in case you got a retaining wall, let us got find out the, let us consider a retaining wall. Okay, let us consider, because let us consider a general case, the back inclined. Now we have got the ground line, okay, beta, at an angle beta. Now let us call this as A, and the yield region as B. Now from the heel, you try to draw a line which is called the phi line. Now, if I draw too big, okay, then drawing a semicircle will be a problem. Doesn't matter. Now, with this phi line, which is at an angle, this angle is phi. This is called the phi line. Now, from the information available here, I know what is this angle theta, I know what is theta, I know what is beta, I know what is delta. Delta also will be given. Therefore, I can find out what is psi. Psi is equal to 90 minus theta minus delta. Find out that value. Then you draw a line called psi line. I'll use different notation. Let me use. This inclination is psi. Let me call it as dn. This is the psi line. Now, what I need to do is, I need to draw all this to a scale. Now I need to identify, this is D, identify the middle of this line BD, then draw a semicircle. I'll draw a semicircle. Now you'll have to take a scale so that you will be able to draw the semicircle. So once you draw the semicircle, from A, draw a line parallel to the psi line, BN. Now I am drawing a line parallel to these two lines are parallel. I get a point E, AE. From there, I drop a perpendicular. I drop a perpendicular. It will cut the semicircle at point F. With B as center and BF as radius, okay, you draw a arc. Okay, you are drawing a arc. Now it will cut the point here at some point. Let me call it as G. Okay, Then from G, what I do is, I'll draw a line parallel to this, again psi line. I'll draw a line parallel to the psi line. It will be cutting the ground line at point C. Okay. Then, wherever I am written, see this psi line, this line and this line are all parallel. From here, what I'll do, with G as center, I'll draw an arc. Okay, it will cut the phi line at point K. I'll join KC. The problem with this pens are too smooth. Okay, now I'll get this triangle. add this triangle and find out what is this area. Let me call this area as delta. Okay, area of the triangle. Now, once I find out this area, I can find out the thrust. I'll explain once again. Draw the retaining wall to a certain scale. We have got this angle theta, that is the better angle. You got this surcharge angle beta. Draw the ground line at an angle beta. With respect to the horizontal, from the heel, this is the heel. From the heel, draw a line at an angle phi. You get your psi line. Sorry, phi line. Now extend this line and also extend the line AD. Wherever it meets, it is called D. Now you measure BD, mark the middle point. Then with this as center and the BD as the diameter, you draw a semicircle. Starting from the top of the retaining wall, okay, at this point B, you are going to do another construction. You are going to also draw a line which is called phi line, which is BN, which is at an angle psi from the phi line, not from the horizontal. Please note down, it is from the phi line. Therefore, I am drawing this line BN before I draw the semicircle. Now, after drawing the semicircle, what I am going to do, starting from the top of the retaining wall, I draw a line which is parallel to the psi line. It will intersect the phi line at point E. At this point, draw a perpendicular. This is a perpendicular. Okay. That perpendicular will intersect the semicircle. This is a semicircle. Now, once you get this point F, with B as center and BF as radius, draw an arc to cut the phi line in point G. From G, what I am going to do, I am going to draw another line parallel to the psi line, which is BN. Okay, this will be extended so that it cuts the ground line. This is the ground line. At this point, okay, what I am going to do, okay, with G as center and GC as radius, I am going to draw an arc. I am going to draw an arc. It is going to cut the phi line at point K. Join CK, then hatch this triangle, note on this triangle. Therefore, your thrust PA is equal to, it is the not off, it is delta into, so this area of the area is already obtained. This is the area of the, where delta is the delta into gamma, where delta is the area of triangle GCK. This is the active thrust, where PA is the total active thrust. One can do it analytically, one can do it graphically and compare, we will get the same answer. Now, we can join these two lines, these 2 points, B and C. This will be the critical slip plane, and this angle will be lambda, where lambda is the critical slip angle, and DC is the critical slip plane. Okay, this is a very simple graphical procedure. To explain once again, draw the retaining structure to certain scale, draw the ground line, draw the phi line with respect to the horizontal. Then wherever these two lines meet, we call it as D. From B, which is the heel, you draw a line BN, which is called the psi line, where psi is equal to 90 minus theta minus delta. this psi is measured from the phi line and not with respect to the horizontal, whereas phi is measured with respect to horizontal. Then you are going to take this BD as diameter with the center point. You are going to draw a semicircle. Then from A you are going to draw a line parallel to the psi line. I'll get a point E. From there from E I am drawing a perpendicular wherever it meets the semicircle. Okay, taking the yield point as the center, I'm going to draw an arc. It is going to cut the phi line at point G. From there I am drawing another line parallel to the psi line. It will cut the ground line at C. Then G as center, GC as radius, I am going to draw an arc. It gets cut at K. Using that point, okay, I am going to join KC and I am going to get this triangle. This triangle area is to be measured. How to get the area? Take this as the base, drop a perpendicular to scale. You find out what is this value x. Okay, to get this delta, half into base is kg into height. I'll call it as x. I get my area in meter square. Convert to scale. That is very important. Convert to scale. Now once you have your delta, multiply by the unit weight. Okay, I multiply by 1 meter perpendicular to the board into the unit weight. It gives you the thrust. Okay. Now lambda can be measured from the horizontal, where BC is the critical slip plane. Okay, then you measure the angle. You get your direction of your critical slip plane with respect to horizontal. These are the things which have to be done. So in the numerical example, they may not ask you to write all these things, but you have to write. You have to measure these things and you have to report. Now let us take a simple example based on this. Before going to that, we have got two more cases. They are very simple. I'll complete the numerical example, then I'll come to those two cases. Now let us take a retaining wall. The data given is like this. I got a this is the retaining wall. Height is 11 meters vertical. The theta is given as 15 degrees. It is not given theta as 15. Okay, it is inclined at 75 degrees with respect to the vertical. This is 75 degrees with respect to vertical, means this is 15 degrees. Therefore, theta is 15 degrees. Okay, he has given delta wall friction as 20. The phi value is 36, and he is given the unit weight as 16 kilonewton per meter cube. With this data, we need to now try to construct this beta. Phi is 36. Okay, wherever they meet, we get D. We call this as A. This is B. Then I need to measure you can take 1:200 so that it becomes 5.5 centimeter, each centimeter representing 2 meters. Then if you can accommodate maximum meters, then you draw a line, psi line at an angle. Then you have to find out psi. Psi is equal to 90 degrees minus theta minus delta. 90 minus 15 minus of 20, that is 35. Therefore, it is 65. At 65 degrees from here, draw a this is N. Then mark the middle point, draw a semicircle. Once you have a semicircle, maybe this was not visible. Once you have your semicircle, okay, now you draw a line parallel to this thing. You get your point E, then draw a perpendicular. This is 90 degrees. We get F. With BF as radius, we draw an arc. We get G. From there, draw a line parallel to this eye line. You get C. Then drop a arc. We get K. Join. We get this triangle. Now, what values I got? So this is the critical slip plane, measures this angle lambda. Now I got my, to scale I got kg is equal to 7.6 meters. Then CT is equal to CT. I got the perpendicular 6.4 meters. Therefore, I got my delta area is equal to 24.32 meters square. Then PA is equal to delta into gamma. Delta is 24.32 into 16. I got the thrust 389.12 kilonewton per meter. The interesting part here is he is asked to find out. Now I need to find out. This is theta, this is 15. He is asked to find out what is the intensity of pressure, not the total thrust. Now I need to, now the pressure distribution diagram will be something like this. This will be inclined, base will be inclined at angle delta equal to 20 degrees. Now what is this value? The intensity of the intensity of earth pressure is different from this is the total thrust. This is the total active thrust. Now to find out this, I know what is my PA. That is, now I need to find out what is this value at the base. Now I am not going to give any more clues. Okay, you need to use your little bit of mathematical skill. Find out this area of this triangle is nothing but PA. Now I want the base. Okay, you can do this. Okay, this completes the problem numerical example. There are two more cases. Let us go to the two more cases in reverse graphical method. One, the retaining wall is something like this. Case 1, beta and phi are nearly the same, but they are not equal, but almost same. Therefore, what happens? This is like this is like this. Okay, it may meet somewhere at infinity. This is beta. This is phi. Let us say beta is say 20 degrees and phi is say 25 degrees. Something of that sort. Okay, now it's very difficult to. Therefore, what I do, the procedure is something similar, but we need to do some construction. I'll try to use certain color so that it becomes easy for you to understand. This is as usual this is Bn, this is the value of psi, this is the psi line. Now what I am going to do, I am going to select some points. So let us say this is D1, this is D2. They are not meeting at a point D. Now let us therefore select some point C dash, and I'll take the middle point of BC dash and draw a semicircle. Once I draw the semicircle, what I'll do is I'll join. Okay, now what I have to do, from here I draw a line parallel to, let me use the line only. So this is the ground line. Now I draw a line parallel to the ground line. So these two are similar. Okay. Now once I draw this, okay, I get a point. Let me call it as A dash. This is A. Now from A, what I do is I draw a line parallel to BN. I'll draw a line parallel to BN. Once I get this point, let me call it as E dash. Then I draw a perpendicular. I draw a perpendicular. This is 90 degrees. I will get a point F dash. Now with B as center and BF as radius, I draw an arc. When I draw an arc, it will cut the ground line, the phi line. This is the phi line at G dash. At that point, what I'll do is I will join. I'll join A dash G dash. Once I get this A dash G dash, what I'll do is from the top of this thing, I'll draw a line parallel to. So these two are parallel. Once I get G dash, I join the line A with the point A dash. I get a line A dash G dash. Now I am going to draw a line parallel to this line A dash G dash from A. Wherever it intersects, I call this as G. Now with that G, what I'll do, I'll try to draw a line parallel to. From here, the procedure remains same. Okay, now once I get this G, I'm going to draw a line parallel to this is parallel to this. I get C with GC as a radius. I draw an arc. I get K. Then I join this. I find out this area. Then this is the case. Okay. To repeat, okay, what we are going to do, we are going to identify some point C. I'm going to draw a semicircle. Then I'm going to get this point A dash. How I'm going to get A dash? I'm going to, from C dash, I'm going to draw a line parallel to the ground line. From A dash, I'm going to draw a line parallel to the side line. I get T. From the perpendicular, B, F dash as a radius. I draw a arc. I get G. From here, I join A dash. Then I draw a line parallel to this line A dash G dash from A, and I get my line AG. Once I get this, then I draw a line parallel to the side line. From there I draw an arc, I get this line. Then the remaining thing is same. Now let us go to the last case, which is very, very simple. Very, very simple, where beta and R are equal. When they are equal, it is simple, just they are both parallel. Take some point G, then this is B. Okay, I got my this is phi, this is psi. What I do is I draw a line parallel to the psi line. From here, this is C, draw an arc. Okay, join this. This is K. You take any point on this phi line. This is the phi line. On the phi line, you take any point and draw the point. Okay, then from there you draw a line parallel to the psi line. From there you drop an arc and you join this and you get this triangle. This is a simple case. Very straightforward case. Nothing to bother. But the procedure is very simple and you get your delta. Once you get your area of the triangle, from that you can multiply with unit weight, you get your thrust. You can even do for various cases with even surcharge. You can take up that cases independently. Students, we have seen how graphically using the Rabin's method we can find out the thrust. Now there is another method called Kalman's method, which is very useful. Not only to find out the thrust, also in cases where you have some utility like a railway line or some building coming very near to the retaining structure, how far we can place it so that it doesn't lead to any thrust on the additional thrust other than the thrust which is coming from your backfill material. Now let us see this case, how to do it. It's a very interesting case, very beautiful method given by Kalman. If this is the retaining structure, okay, this is the ground line. Now what you are going to do here is, as usual, we draw a line called the let me draw a line. This is the phi line. Then I'll draw a line Bn, which is inclined at an angle psi, where psi is equal to 90 minus theta minus delta. Now afterwards what you are going to do is, Kalman said that you select any point here and try to form a triangle. I guess I can form wedges passing through the heel. Like this I take various wedges. Now let us say I have taken equidistant wedges at a distance L1, a distance L2, and so on. Now what I'll do is, I'll try to find out the area of each triangle and I'll find out what is the weight acting. Let us say, let me call this as C1. Let me use the standard notation as C1. This is C2, this is C3, this is C4 and so on. Each wedge has got some weight W1, W2 like this, okay. Now what I am going to do, on the phi line I am going to represent to a certain scale, let me call this as E1. B1 represents W1 to scale. Similarly, okay, I can represent different points E2 where DE2 is representing W1 plus W2 to scale. Or in other words, E1, E2 is representing W2. Now after marking this to scale, what I will do is, I will try to draw a line, parallel to this phi line, and I try to draw a line parallel to this phi line. Wherever it cuts the wedge. Okay, now I am going to draw a line. I call that point as F1. Similarly, from here I draw a line parallel to the side line. I get my point F2. Similarly, from say E3, this is E4. I draw line parallel to the side line. I draw a line parallel to the side line. Now what's happening here? These points are called F3, F4. Now what happens? I can join these points by a smooth curve. Now after going to a peak value, it goes on reducing. Now wherever I get my, not necessarily this should be the peak one, okay, it may be somewhere here. Okay, now I get my maximum. What I do is, I draw a line tangent to the parallel to the side line. Okay, now what I do is, I take a rotor scale or something and try to move it, and wherever I get a tangent, okay, to this curve, this is the tangent drawn. So this red line is called the Kalman's line. Now this maximum value to scale represent the active thrust. Now wherever this point you get, okay, let me call it as F. This point as F. This is F3. Okay, this is the point F. Now I can join from point B. I join this point C. So F, and I extend it. Now this forms the slip line, the critical slip line. I can measure this angle with respect to the horizontal. I get my lambda. Okay, I got my slip line, and this is the active thrust. I'll explain once again. What I'm going to do is, I draw the retaining structure to scale. I'm drawing a line phi at an angle, phi with respect to the horizontal. This represents the phi line. From the top of the retaining wall, I am drawing a line at angle beta. That is this angle is beta. Once I have this, what I am going to do, on the ground line I take some point C1, I take this as a wedge. Now I can find out what is the weight of the wedge. Like this I can form various wedges, and I can represent the weight of the wedge on the phi line to some scale as E1, as E1, E2, E2, E3, E3, E4 for the various weights W1, W2, W3, W4, like this you can go on for 4 or 5 wedges. Then from each point E1, E2, what I am going to do, I am going to draw a line parallel to the side line which I have already constructed. The side line is nothing but at an angle 90 minus theta minus delta form your phi line. It is not with respect to the horizontal. Well, there you get your side line. A parallel line to the side line, if you extend it, it cuts the wedge line which is considered here. You get the points F1, F2, F3, F4 like this. Then what I am going to do, after getting this, I join all the points, I get a line, a curve which is called the Kalman's line. It is a Kalman's line, it is not a straight line, it is a curve. Then what I am going to do, I am going to draw a parallel line to the phi line, so touching tangentially to the Kalman's line. Wherever it touches tangentially, I mark that point as F, then I measure EF to scale that represents the total active lateral thrust. Then joining F, okay, from B and extending it to the ground line, I get C. This line is called the critical slip line or best slip line. This is the critical slip line. I can measure my angle lambda. Now I need to know what is my position, okay, the direction of my. Now this portion In this wedge, okay, I got A, C and B. Now I have to find out what is the weight of this wedge. And I can find out the centroid and I can find out what is the weight. That is the weight W. Now I need to find out my direction, where it is going to act. How to get that? Okay, to get that line, what I need to do is, I can we'll take a numerical example and solve that so that I can show you how you can get that. Let us take this numerical example. There on I'll show you how to draw a line parallel from that point to the psi line. Wherever it intersects the back of the retaining wall, there is the point of application of the lateral thrust. Now the retaining wall H is 10 meters and batter is 1 in 12. From this you have to find out theta. Now this is the batter. Means there is 1 unit horizontal for 12 units vertical. Then your surcharge angle wall friction is 24 degrees. Then beta is 15 degrees. Then is given phi is equal to 30 degrees. Now you can draw this to scale. This is at 15 degrees. Then from the horizontal, see phi has been given as 30 degrees. Draw a line at 30 degrees. Okay, wherever it cuts, okay, it may not cut, doesn't matter. This is what I have done is I have taken at every 2 meters to scale. I have taken 2 meters very conveniently. If I take equidistant lines, I get, if I find out the weight of the wedge, first wedge, okay, if I find out the weight of the first wedge, then the next subsequent wedges, it becomes easy for you to now I have found out the weight of the wedge and I have marked the points as E1, E2, E3. I have taken the same 2 meters so that is represented to means 2 meters is representing certain weight W1. Therefore, it becomes easy for me to do the construction. It will save a lot of time. Then what I have done, I have got my psi line. This is B, N. Now this angle is an angle psi. Now what I am doing is I am drawing lines parallel to the psi line because it is easy to remember if you use some. From E1 I am drawing a line parallel to psi line. Wherever it meets, I call it as F1. I draw a line parallel to BN. Similarly, draw parallel lines. Okay, now what's happening? My construction is not proper, doesn't matter. Okay. It goes like this, and later it becomes reduced. Okay, the value reduces. Then I found out my critical point, somewhere it comes somewhere here. I get my point F. This is F2, F3, F4. Now where I get my maximum on this one? I draw a tangent. I get my tangent and my maximum thrust. Okay, somewhere I got. This is PA to scale. Now I am going to draw the line. I get my C point. Now this area I need to find out what is this W. Once I get my W, I get my centroid. Let us say this is the centroid of this is CG of W. This is G point. From there, what I am going to do, I am going to draw a line parallel to the now I got this critical slip length. This is the critical slip plane. Now from here, draw a line. These two are parallel. Wherever it intersects the retaining wall, from there you draw. See, you got a normal. This is the normal, and at an angle delta. At an angle delta, so this is 90 degrees. Okay, to the back of the retaining wall, wherever it cuts, you drop a normal or a perpendicular. This is 90 degrees. Then measure an angle equal to delta. In the opposite direction, write a line that represents. This is your this is your PA. So scale PA is obtained here. The direction is obtained through this centroid of this failure wedge or the slip wedge. Find out the centroid. From there, you draw a line parallel to the critical slip plane or slip line. Okay, when you draw a parallel, okay, you extend it and you wherever it touches the back, that is the point at which your PA is acting. Now to get your direction of PA, you got your point of application of PA. To get your direction of this thing, what I need to do, at this point, you draw a perpendicular to the inclined back of the retaining wall. This is 90 degrees. Then from there, I measure an angle equal to delta, which is 24 degrees. Then extend this line. In the opposite direction, draw this arrow. The thrust will be towards the retaining wall, and you get your thrust. So this is about Kalman's graphical method. There one more thing which you can complete with this is, I can also, now if I got some Q, let us say I got a building, it may be a footing or it may be a railway line which is passing. If I know what is the intensity of Q, I can add to the weight W. Okay, I can find out E1 dash, E2 dash. Okay, BE1 is representing the weight W1. BE1 dash is representing weight W1 plus Q. Okay, then similarly for every point you are making slight additional value. This is nothing but Q. Thereby I can develop an additional curve which is called the modified Kalman's line. The process is simple. Whatever you are going to do, first draw the Kalman's line. On the same final, you are going to add the value equal to Q. This is W1. Like this, you are going to mark additional points E1 dash, E2 dash, E3 dash, like that. Then from there, you are going to draw a line parallel to the side line. I am going to get a point which are going to intersect on these vertical lines. and I'm going to draw connecting those points. I get the modified convergence line. Now I'm going to draw this and extend it till I get a line which is such that my PA value, this is the PA, because of the earth plus Q. This value and this value should be same. Now whenever I get this point, then I can extend this line. Now if I have my Q here, means if I place my footing at this place, I am not going to get an additional stress on the retaining wall, whereas I will have only the thrust because of your backfill, and this is not going to create any problem. That is the idea. If I place it here, I will have a stress because of the earth fill plus your, therefore I will be getting something like this. I can draw the influence line. Now this is the additional thrust because of my Q. Now this gets up to a certain value. If I place my footing here, or footing or a railway line, I am going to get an additional stress because of my additional load which is coming because of my footing or the structure, in addition to the lateral earth pressure. Now when I place it at a certain distance, there is no pressure because of my additional load which is coming because of my structure which is constructed. Now I can use this, I can sit in the office and I can work out, I can find out at what distance if I place it away from the edge of the retaining structure, I am going to have no influence of this value of Q onto the retaining wall, and I am going to get only a thrust equal to the thrust because of your backfill. In case this is not clear, once again I will discuss and I will give you more details about this. Once again I will explain to you, and we will take up a numerical example. I will send you some problem on this numerical example to the Google Classroom. You can take that problem and work out. In case you have got doubts, you can call me back. This completes the chapter on lateral earth pressure. I will be sending all the videos to you, and you can go through that and you can clarify your doubts. Whatever doubts, you can call me, or you can send mails to my mail ID, or you can send through Google Classroom. We will discuss and I will clarify all your doubts.